So first, we'll just introduce ourselves and the podcast to you. My name is Vansh, and this is Aarav and Yash Kunal. We are four people, and we run this podcast called Poppedia, in which we discuss politics, pop culture, and other things. So today we'll just discuss with you, the current state of Indian politics and what we have become as a democracy, right? And how we have slipped down the democracy index in some surveys saying that India is an electoral autocracy in some sense. So we'll discuss some topics like that. So let's just begin the
Yep.
podcast, right? So, according to you, because you've seen a lot of governments, you've seen a lot of, rules throughout the years. According to you, what makes particularly this administration autocratic, or in some sense, termed as, because this has never happened in Indian politics before, like the kind of oppression on dissent, the kind of suppression of voices. This has never happened before. So how do you see this time of Indian politics as compared to the past?
Well, I won't say that it has never happened in India, what is happening now, but definitely the degree of what has happened is very, very different. I was probably your age when emergency was declared. I was in college, and we saw some of the emergency, and the country witnessed an attack on dissent and all the liberties taken away. But even in those times, there was enough room for dissent, in the sense that we used to get newspapers which would have black columns on the front page, signifying that something was written, but it has been censored out. Uh, what we are seeing in the last 10 years, 9 years, since especially the Modi government has come to power, there is an attack on all kinds of dissent. I mean, and it is not that our personal freedoms are being curbed and have been curbed. It is a very systematic attack on all the democratic structures of this country, whether it is the judiciary, which to a great extent has seemed to have crumbled down, um, and the media is totally sold off. The what is called the national media, at least the major television channels and major newspapers, they are totally controlled by the government and whoever owns them, mainly Adani and Ambani. And there is no space for, not only that there is no space for dissent, there is no space for common people at all for talking about issues which concern ordinary people of this country. Bureaucracy, of course, I don't know whether it is sold off completely or they are afraid, because anybody who takes a stand is either, is thrown away to some god's forsaken place, or is arrested, like people like Sanjeev Bhatt and many others. So there's a total clampdown, and even the parliament has become a big joke, because I mean, if we look at the recent few weeks, then the way Mahua Moitra was thrown out of the parliament, or before that, there have been Rahul Gandhi was thrown out. He fought back, came back, but uh, and the way they're being using parliament. If they think that they cannot, or at least they used to think that they cannot get a bill passed, then they would bring in money bills and do all kinds of wishy-washy things to get, push the new policies which they are bringing in every parliament session. Then the attack on artists and intellectuals and total subversion of academic freedom in universities, in institutions. So there is an all-round attack on all places of, anywhere, any place where people can question, or where questioning is encouraged. All those spaces are being curbed at a very fast pace. There over, I don't have the exact numbers, but hundreds of RTI activists have been killed during this period. There are hundreds of also journalists who have lost their lives, and many of them who are in jails. So things are quite bleak.
And also talking about journalists being, harassed and killed, perhaps in some cases. When I moved here, when I moved to London, when I started my course, we were talking about the media situation across the globe. So we're talking about in Asia, we're talking about it in America, we're talking about in the context of Europe. And sadly, unfortunately, nobody knew that something like this was happening in India. Like no one actually was aware that this was the kind of systematic capture of media that had taken place in India, and that was spreading such hateful content. And when my first presentation came in, I actually presented this story. I actually played some clips from some major news channels and some news anchors of India. And everyone in the room was utterly disgusted by watching them. And it was like, this is something which is not known to the world, which is not, majorly people are not aware about that this is happening in India. And this needs more global attention is what I think. So yeah. And one of my other questions would be, you talked about the bureaucracy. And so recently they've just passed the bill that the chief election commissioner would be elected by a people by a three-person bench, which would consist of a cabinet minister, the prime minister, and the leader of the opposition. So they can just elect anyone they want with a 2:1 ratio.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
because the original committee is Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, and Chief Justice of India.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they have very conveniently replaced the Chief Justice of India by a cabinet minister, who, of course, becomes then part of the government, and
Yeah, yeah.
election commission would work as a puppet.
Mm,
Mm. There is also a lot of you know change in the mentality of a lot of people. So like talk about journalism, media, the media that currently is what it's playing out, it's obviously the mainstream national media, as you said, is obviously showing just their hateful content. So my question here is that how do you, if you are in a space where someone is watching, for example, say Republic TV, what do you do in those kind of situations?
Well, I really don't know what do you do in that question condition, because somebody who's watching Republic or Times Now or ZTV, their minds are totally controlled, and they are constantly exposed to hateful content and a lot of fake news, because these television channels, whatever they are showing, there is hardly any truth in that. They show only one side of a picture which the government wants them to sell to the people.
Hmm.
And you were saying that there's a lot of change in the thinking of the people. This has unfortunately not happened overnight. I mean, RSS and the Sangh Parivar has worked for over 3 decades very consistently. I mean, they have been working for 100 years, but the last beginning from the Advani Rath Yatra, they have never looked back, and they have spread hatred, they have spread lies, they have spread prejudices and preconceived notions about the other communities. I mean, anybody can be made the other. Right now in India, the main target are the Muslims and the Dalits, but any point anybody can make the other. The Christians are uh, almost every day 2 Christians are being attacked in India, if we look at the figures. So they have worked very consistently, and they have spread very deep. Their roots are very deep in the Indian space now, whether it's anywhere you go. Right now, most of the vice chancellors or head of the institutions are also from the RSS. In the last 5 6 years, they have been changed, and they have placed their own people. So it's like a very intricate web which has totally uh, consumed all rational spaces, finished them, and they are spreading far and wide. Uh,
so
People who
yeah,
are
yeah.
watching this would be influenced highly by that kind of hateful propaganda. It is not easy to wean away the people from not watching that. Although now, at least on social media, there are there is enough material available. If you go to the Wire or Scroll or Quint, and there are independent YouTubers like Abhisar and Ravish and Naveen Kumar and many more, Prasun Vajpayee and so many others. So they are producing a lot of material, but it depends on who is watching what. Majority, unfortunately, is still dependent on the national, so-called national media and WhatsApp, which is again a very, very intricate web which is spreading hatred across India to the ground level, to the you know village level.
And
So
also, you mentioned about RSS being the most active it has been since its organization has come to place in the last three or 4 decades. And the roots of the RSS and the BJP in the Indian politics are so deep right now. Like every poll comes up, and Narendra Modi is like the world's world's most approved leader, or his ratings are the highest, especially in this region. So how do you see to challenge such force like that? Because politically, electorally, there is no possible opponent that the Indian voters see. Right. I mean, there are options. There is now the India Alliance. There is Rahul Gandhi. There are certain other opposition leaders who are strong enough to challenge Narendra Modi on a national scale. But in the eyes of the voters of India, there is, because the approval ratings say for it, there is no other option. So how do you see that? How do you, as someone who is working for the society, as someone who is a human rights campaigner, how do you convince, how do you reach out to people saying that this person or this political party is not the best choice for your country?
You see, one is that most of these ratings are actually manufactured.
Mhm.
So I don't think that Modi is, yes, he has a large following in India now, but I don't believe in these surveys because these surveys are mainly all, they are manufactured by, they decide the results which they want, and money is put in to bring in those results. Mm, so that is, but the reality is that right now they are winning. And even the last five elections we have seen where they have, uh, come to power in states where they were not winning. If we go
Mhm.
by, even if we go by exit polls, and if we go by very senior reporters who have reported
Mhm.
politics for decades, even their feedback was that they are not winning.
Like
So
Chhattisgarh, for example.
Chhattisgarh, yes,
Chhattisgarh, for example, even MP wasn't a win according
even
to.
even
yeah,
if we even if
Hmm.
we don't talk of MP, because there was at least one survey which was not showing that
Yeah.
they,
Hmm.
Chhattisgarh definitely.
Yeah,
So
Chhattisgarh
there are
has.
many
Yeah.
things. Election is a very difficult game, and there would be. I haven't looked at the data, but there would be many seats which, must have been won or lost within 1,000, 1,500 votes, because you prop up many candidates who would just cut into the votes by getting 500 or 1,000 votes, and that would make the difference. Or the fact that BSP is not part of the alliance as yet. And in fact, the state level, the alliance was not there. So, one hope at the national level is that if the alliance survives, because they would start sending EDs and CBIs to all of them, and after that, I don't know how many of the political leaders would survive. But if the alliance survives, and if all these political parties are able to convince Mayawati to join the alliance, then definitely BJP can be defeated. I don't think there are two opinions about that. Because if the secular vote is not divided, then they can be defeated if there is fight, 1-to-1 fight. At least, even if it is on 200-300 seats, then they can be
Hmm.
defeated. Because South India, anyways, or the regional, or Bengal and Kerala, they don't hope to get many seats. But your question about convincing people, it is becoming more and more difficult. And it's not easy to convince people to, people, especially people who are hardcore, it is not possible to convince them. They would probably see it whenever it dawns on them that this was all a farce and there was nothing, no concrete, development or whatever is being portrayed. But there is a section which is now, even if they are, disillusioned with the governance part of it, they are still with Modi because they think that he has shown the place to Muslims, and that is something which has gone. This hatred has gone very deep. So I think that anybody who is trying to convince people should, for the time being, leave aside the what we call the bhakts, the hardcore, because everyone has limited time. So it's more important to work on people who are on the fence sitters, and work with them to convince them, because they are the one who's the floating population, who can go either way. So there is a need, one, to work with them. What we are trying in a very small way, one is that, as an activist, or even as Anhad, which is our organization, our capabilities are huge. We have done huge campaigns. We have reached out to lakhs of people at one point of time. But for the last 9 years, we are running on only personal donations, because as soon as this government came, it cancelled our FCRA. It also sent income tax notices to a lot of our Indian funders. So as a result, our capacity to work has become very less. But despite that, we started a campaign. This is not to say that this campaign can change anything substantial on the ground, but we started a campaign on 15th August where we asked people to visit another family which is not of their religion, caste, region, sexual orientation. We are calling it Mere Ghar Aake To Dekho. And between 15th August and now, we have been able to get over 1 lakh people to visit each other across India, across 27 states. And see, what we are witnessing, that any logic which we try with people doesn't work. But when somebody actually visits a home of a Muslim or a Christian, or a Muslim going to a Hindu home, or people from different sexual orientation go to each other's home, then a lot of preconceived notions get demolished. Because what you keep on hearing on WhatsApp or on fake news about all kinds of stories about the other, once you go and see how they live and what are their daily lives like, you realize that there's not much difference. And this has helped a lot. uh, if there was money, if there was, human resources, this could have been done at a huge level. And I think as a sequel to Bharat Jodo Yatra, this would have worked very well. But unfortunately, we don't have those kind of resources to spread it in conditions. If we look at any country, when fascism is taking over, or when authoritarian forces are taking over, then data doesn't work. You can keep on providing whatever data you want. Somebody who is convinced that Muslims are anti-national, or Muslims are terrorists, no amount of data is going to help. We have to touch people's hearts. Only then some change can come. And that is why we thought of this campaign, which is not feeding you any data, which is only reaching out to people at an emotional level, and bringing communities together. So I think a lot of such campaigns, similar campaigns, or campaigns which reach out to people at a personal level, at people to people level, we will have to think of those to fight this hatred. And once you are able to counter the hatred, then the people who are voting for uh, the right wing would stop, and they will have to think that, I have been fed this message so many times, and now I realize that all this is not true, so why should I hate?
Right.
So you were talking about the India Alliance, and as the India Alliance was being formed, the Congress was seen to be the leader of the alliance because it's also the oldest party, the grand old party of India, right? But after the recent five elections that had taken place, and the elections before that as well, and the legislative assembly elections before that, right now, some of the parties in the alliance, they don't see Congress or Rahul Gandhi as their leader anymore, and there is a kind of disturbance inside the alliance that who will lead the alliance now, because the Congress has not proven themselves to be the flag bearer of the alliance, because they are not winning any seats. They're not winning any states. They just won Telangana, and everyone is giving the Telangana win. The credit is given to KCR and his anti-incumbency wave. It's not given to the Congress and their policies. Even the Congress wouldn't have thought they would win Telangana over. So that's the scene. So what do you think about that disturbance, and how do you think this alliance will go forward? Because this was tried before during the last election. Some sort of this thing also happened, and even during the UP election when Yogi Adityanath was standing, the Mahagathbandhan was uh, like something like this had happened before, but this never worked out for the opposition. So how do you think this time is different than the past?
See, one is that I have at least not seen any public statement from Rahul Gandhi or his team saying that he wants to be leading the alliance or he wants to be the prime minister. In fact,
Hmm.
I have heard things which are contrary to that,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
say
yeah.
that it is
Hmm.
important for the alliance to survive. And I
Hmm.
don't think that who will be the leader is there are so many of them. Anybody can be a leader. Nitish Kumar can be a leader. Stalin can be a leader, and Mamta can be a leader. If BSP joins the alliance, Mayawati could be a leader. Anybody can be a leader. I don't think that's such a big question. Yes, earlier alliances didn't work and didn't survive, but I think this is the time when uh, all political parties should understand, and to some extent they are understanding, that if in 2024 BJP comes back, then all of them would be finished forever. If they don't come together and don't fight together, then there is no chance of their survival. They can have their egos, what we have seen in Rajasthan, perhaps, and that is what one is hearing at least, that you can have your ego fights, ego hassles, and oppose each other, but in the end, both will perish, and all political parties will perish. Hitler came to formed a government. It was a minority government, and he had a large number of other political parties. Over a period of time, he finished all of them. No dictator would leave other parties. And now, if they come back this time, they will throw away the constitution. Once the constitution is gone, then there won't be any political rights for any political parties also. It can just turn into a hardcore dictatorship or an authoritarian rule, and there is not much difference between the RSS politics and the fascists.
Hmm.
So it is for political parties to realize that. I mean, you and I probably can't do anything except we are right now circulating an appeal for all secular parties. We are getting signatures on it for them to remain in the alliance and strengthen the alliance, in fact, because BSP is still out of the alliance. It's very important that BSP joins the alliance. If Mayawati thinks that she will survive without the alliance, she's quite mistaken. She's just afraid that she'll be arrested. And I mean, so what? All other all other political parties are also facing the same ED and CBI raids. So just by keeping quiet, she's not going to avoid that. It'll happen one day or another.
And also, you mentioned about if the BJP comes back to power in 2024, they will just throw away the constitution, right? But are the foundations of Indian democracy so fragile that it can be taken over by an authoritative megalomaniac? Is my question.
Well, they were not 10 years ago, but over the last 10 years, they have weakened them tremendously. I mean, the kind of judgments which are coming from Supreme Court, one would have never thought that that can happen. whether it was the Ayodhya judgment or it is the 370 abrogation judgment or so
Hmm.
many others. So Supreme Court is also, and so many high courts. I mean, I'm not saying that the judiciary has totally compromised, but there are still a lot of very strong judges, and in between you keep getting very good judgments. But they feel as threatened probably as everyone else. And both the men at the top are very vindictive and they know how to threaten people. This is how they ran Gujarat. This is how they're running the country. So they have weakened the foundations of democracy. I mean, you yourself said that it is no longer at the international level. It is being given all kinds of names now. Not a vibrant
Not
democracy.
Yeah, yeah.
We
It's an
heard a
electoral
partial
autocracy.
electoral autocracy. Before
Autocracy,
that,
yeah.
we said partial democracy.
Yeah, partial democracy.
Yeah. So it is no longer looking like a democracy.
And also, how do you see the world's response to this? Because uh, as I have moved abroad, as I've talked with other people of the world, I've had Ukrainian friends, I've had Palestinian refugees who are my friends, and the Indian situation right now is not seen that is, because even by the Americans, it's not seen something which is dangerous or threatening. Like it is not something serious, is what they see. I mean, not no world leader sees Narendra Modi as someone who has to be ousted from power or who has to be taken out of power for India to be a free democracy.
I don't think they're interested in India remaining a free democracy. I don't think they have
Hmm.
any problems with Modi. Modi, a prime minister like Modi, serves them a much better purpose than a Rahul Gandhi or a Nitish Kumar would do because India is a big market for them.
Hmm.
And India is, I mean, if you look at what is happening in Palestine right now, across the world, there are huge demonstrations. People are protesting, parliaments are protesting, people are speaking. In India, nothing is possible.
Hmm.
Not even a tiny protest on Jantar Mantar is being allowed. You
Hmm.
forget big protests, except for Kerala and I think one more place, some
In
small
Bengal, it
in
happened in
Bengal.
Kolkata. Yeah,
Yes,
it
in
because
Kolkata,
yeah, in
and
Kolkata.
also in Bangalore, a tiny one. But
Hmm.
I don't think that any other democratic leader would serve the purpose of US imperialism like Modi is serving. So why would they want him removed? And to say that people don't know, at least the people in the government, if they think that they don't know what is happening in India, that is, I mean, that is fooling themselves and that is fooling us. With the kind of intelligence that they have, you know, whether it's the intelligence agencies of America or Russia or Israel or other countries, there is no way that they don't know what is happening in India. With BBC reporting, with Voice of America reporting, with so many other, media reporting of what is happening in India, New York Times publishing it in front page so many times. So to say that they don't know what is happening in India, if they want to be naive, then nobody can, you know, say anything to them.
And also, Modi
Also,
brings much economic profits to these countries. Like it opens up India as a market for them. So there
Yeah,
is
yeah,
no absolute
absolutely.
reason. There is no absolute reason for them to not have him as a leader. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. They would any day prefer Modi over Rahul Gandhi
Hmm.
because the
Yeah.
way Modi is, opening up everything and selling off India, no other leader would do that. So it serves
Mhm.
their purpose. The way he's buying um, armaments from Israel and US, no other government is going to do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
also, what would the foreign countries' reaction would be to the almost militant nationalism that India is going? Like, would that not serve a conflict of interests? Because eventually, there will come a point where India will not be wanting to have good relations with any of the countries which do not say follow Hinduism or the majoritarian ideology of the ruling party.
No, the
You
thing.
see, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, you can go first.
You see, I think that by the time that happens, it'll probably be late for them also. In my, I haven't traveled for a very long time. I actually don't remember when I traveled last to US, but every time I have toured US colleges twice, giving lectures. I have met various officials in US. I had also met number of member of parliaments of the European Union and briefed them. And every time I have told them, I said, don't worry about us, worry about your own self. Because the kind of hatred which is, uh, taking roots in your countries, you should be aware about that. You should worry about that. The Indian diaspora, the various organizations which are connected with RSS, the kind of hatred that they're spreading on your soil, you should be worrying about that. I have, whomever I have met, I have warned them. And I think they have beginning to realize now that India can get people killed on the soil of other countries, Canada, and they were planning in US. And if they can do this, they can go to any extent. And the large section of the diaspora is hardcore right wing,
Mm, yeah.
and and it will start reflecting in all these countries. See, what we are witnessing here, they are going to witness very soon. It has already started, but it will spread. And then probably it will be too late for them also. They might not realize it now. It is not going to be, maybe not how it happened in how Germany expanded, but something similar to that.
Also, talking about, world politics, uh, what do you think, what do you think about the situation in Palestine right now?
What is happening in Palestine has, this hasn't happened anywhere in the world. Even I would say that I don't think even Afghanistan was this bad. It was very bad under Taliban's and continues to be. But the kind of aggression, the kind, I mean, and US vetoing every time, even the
Mhm.
humanitarian help, the way they are bulldozing, killing over 6,000 children have been killed. And it's also exposing the US imperialism. And, because their whole economy is based only on wars, and they want more and more wars for their economy to flourish. But I think it's a big blot on humanity as a whole. And I don't think that, after uh, different countries started becoming democratic after monarchy, um, and the realization that every human being has equal human rights and dignity and everything. Of course, in the earlier, during feudalism and monarchy, all these concepts were not there. But after 45, after the declaration of human rights, I don't think atrocities like this have happened anywhere in the world. And
Mm.
so shamefully, the way US is supporting it, the way US is supporting Israel, it's, and one feels so helpless. I mean, I have frankly never felt this helpless, not even in the conditions in India, what one is feeling right now for Palestinian kids and civilians and what is happening there. It's extremely sad.
And also, what has been happening on international level in the United Nations General Assembly and the Security Council. I mean, every resolution in the Security Council has been vetoed by the US. And in fact, it went on flow in the General Assembly, but anything that passes the General Assembly is not technically law.
Yeah.
It has to go through the Security Council. So it did pass through the General Assembly, but it can't be, taken into action. But many Middle Eastern countries have been, acting on that resolution that has been passed in the General Assembly to go ahead and bring peace. And on the other hand, many Middle Eastern countries such as Yemen has given statements that it would declare war on Israel,
Yes.
and there would be another Arab-Israeli war. I mean, we see a Cold War, or the Arab-Israeli Cold War right now, but there would be a full-fledged Arab-Israeli war in the region.
You know,
So, talk.
this can turn into a world war also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because now that Yemen has decided that it will not allow any ships in the Red Sea, and Israel is all ready to hit back. So this can, I mean, for how long would these killings can be tolerated by people in other countries?
Mm.
This can have very, very dangerous consequences. And
And also
never,
the bombing. Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah, yeah.
never
Please,
talk,
please.
the people who are talking about environment all the time. I have never seen any of them talk against the wars, because one bomb, you know the war right now in Palestine and the kind of heat and which is being generated there, the consequences on the environment are far far greater than any other reasons which are given for spoiling the environment. So
Mm.
if it's very important that the environmentalists of this world join the voices to stop this war and all wars, in fact.
And the bombings and the attacks have been so indiscriminate that they are not just they're not just killing Gazan civilians, but also Israeli captives that were, captured by Hamas. And they're also bombing hospitals. There was a video of them bombing a disability
Yes.
center where disabled people have to been evacuated from the space. And also systematic drone attacks on Al Jazeera journalists and their families. This has also been taken place. So this is not just something, not just a war which is geopolitical or territorial, but it is something which Israel and the West combined have, I don't know if they're trying to prove something to the rest of the world, or they're trying to assert their dominance again in the rest of the world. But this is something which is really sad, and which has never happened in the world before. But do you think the West is trying to assert their dominance again by using this war as leverage to their because
Yes.
people didn't see the US and the UK as the global leaders anymore. So
I don't know. I mean, they are, of course, they are trying to show that they are the bosses of the world on one hand, but second is that, I mean, the more important thing is that their whole economy survive on wars, on selling of armaments, so they must ensure that some war is going on constantly, because that is the way they make money to rule the rest of the world, of course. And they have killed millions and millions of people to to fuel the to so that their economy should continue to prosper. And it's not that ordinary people are not realizing it in US, in UK, in Canada, everywhere, and they are protesting, but unfortunately nobody is listening to them. And this can, I don't know the consequences. They can be very, very dangerous. Now with Yemen and Israel going, if that war starts, because Yemen is not going to allow any ships. They have said it very clearly. If you don't allow humanitarian aid to go to Palestine, then we are not allowing any other ships to go. They will be sinking the ships. So that war starts, and then more countries can get into it. No
and
idea.
also I have yeah, and also I've met one Palestinian friend who has family back in Ramallah, back in Palestine, back in the occupied East uh, thing. And very clearly said that he saw Hamas as revolutionaries, as fighters, and as someone who is trying to protect their own. And he did not see them as extremists or terrorists. I mean, that is also one sense which is on ground, which it's also a feeling which is on ground, that they don't see Hamas as an extremist group. They don't see them as terrorists. They actually see them as heroes. He actually used the word heroes for Hamas. And he does not see the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or any other political party, any other liberal Palestinian political party as their leader. And according to him, this is the situation on ground, that people are ready to support Hamas and to fight Israel and to claim back their land.
Well, I mean, I would not consider Hamas as heroes, or, but that is a Palestinian view.
Mm.
And when people are pushed to, because initially it was the People's Liberation PLO and Yasser Arafat who everyone held in high esteem. But since a solution was not found, uh, under such conditions, radicalization happens. And we have seen not only in Palestine, but in many conflict zones, that people pick up the gun, which I at least don't support. I don't think that is the answer, or because the way Hamas killed so many people and held people hostages. I mean, there is no way one can support that. There is no way one can support that, despite whatever is happening. At least I can't support that. I don't support any killings from which side.
Mm. And also, one of the other things, that the recent parliament security breach that happened. I mean, people who had smoke bombs in the parliament, and they got arrested, and they were mainly students and teachers who were really distressed by by the condition of the country right now, by unemployment, by not having enough jobs, by not having enough money to survive their lives. And they took this step to, put out a statement uh, in the parliament. Do you think this, like, we have come to this last resort, that using or breaching the security of the parliament, or going inside the parliament, is the only way we can make ourselves heard in this country? Because,
Well, unfortunately, they have not got themselves heard.
yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, they have not got themselves heard, and I don't think this is. And also the other, the other part of the whole thing is that, and which many people have raised, that if even if one boy or a girl out of those was a Muslim, it
Mm,
would have been a very different scenario. All television channels would have been talking about the ISI links and terror attack and all that. And if any opposition leader would have issued that pass
yeah.
to boys, then it would have been the same scenario. Now that a BJP MP had given the pass, and whatever happened, so it is being shown as if it is not, nothing. I mean, parliament breach is a parliament breach.
Mm,
Security breach is a security breach, and it has to be taken very seriously. We have lost two of our prime ministers to this.
yeah.
So this is not a small thing. I can understand that these young people are not terrorists. They did it out of discontent or
Desperation.
desperation, but it has to be taken seriously. And there cannot be these two sides. If somebody who is from the majority community does it, it's fine. If someone even remotely connected to a Muslim name, then it would have been a very different scenario. I mean, probably they thought that they were being the new age Bhagat Singhs, but
Mm,
the times have changed. The times have changed. I mean, in when India was not free under the British rule, nobody would say that what Bhagat Singh did was wrong.
mm.
But in today's time, there are other ways of doing it, and the only way which we have is to join hands and try our best to defeat these forces politically.
So, do you see an electoral defeat of the BJP? Because, I saw this film on Netflix. It's called the Trials of Chicago 7. And in that scene, there's a scene in the film which beautifully explains what, idealists and what actual leaders think. And he's like, I will talk about education, I will talk about this unemployment. And then he's like, if you don't win elections, all of these things don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So if the opposition does not win elections, if they do not have electoral power, or even to stay in the opposition, because some people are predicting that the Congress will not even be sitting in the house after 2024 elections. So what do you think about that statement? Will there be an electoral comeback, or will we see another Narendra Modi term? And if that were to be taken, seriously, how would that term be?
As I
Also,
already said,
I want to add to
yeah.
this question. So we're like talking about democracy. Uh, how effective do you think an electoral change would be? I mean, it would stop the state sponsoring of the hatred, but as like there's already a lot of hatred filled with a lot of people. Do you think a change in government could change that?
You see, the first question, I think that we have still not lost the battle. Uh, if the alliance survives, and it is not only the alliance which I mean, on which all the responsibility of dislodging this government should be left. People of this country must unite. People of this country must fight on the ground to defeat them. Like 2004, a large section of India's population fought against the Vajpayee government. It was not only the political parties. If everyone comes together, and now of course the number is much less because 30-40% of the people have become total bhakts and no rationality is possible with them. But it is possible to defeat them provided the alliance remains intact and BSP also joins. Your and if they come back to power, I don't think that to say that Congress won't be there. So I don't think that that's really correct to say that they won't be even in opposition. For some time they would be, but if the constitution is thrown in the dustbin and after that they take, I mean, one doesn't know what will happen if Modi comes back, whether this kind of parliamentary democracy will remain, not remain, what are the kind of changes which will come. So it is difficult to say about that. And your question about whether if they are defeated and if opposition, the present opposition comes to power, you see, the first step is to dislocate them, dislodge them. Yes, in one day it will not change, but with the police and law machinery under the new government, right now what is happening that the non-state actors know it very well that we can do what we like, nothing will happen to us. We can spread hatred, we can kill people, we can lynch people, we can drag down people from the buses and kill them and nothing will happen to us. So that will stop to some extent, that will stop. Secondly, the hatred is very deep, there is no doubt about it. So according to me, we require at least 1 decade to undo what has been done in the last decade. And that would require the government, all the agencies, and civil society to start re educating people. That would be a major task. But I'm hoping that if that happens, then the new government would probably have, make colleges and schools open for civil society to go and work with young people. Because if we cannot change the people who already have deep hatred in their hearts and minds, we can at least work with the younger generation to live a more life which is more compassionate and not hate each other. It will require a lot of energies, and it will require all kinds of, you'll require a change in the social media, you know mm, all forms of channels which reach out to people will have to generate a lot of new material for educating people.
So that was the last question. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much on being on Poppedia podcast. We wish to talk to you again, and this was a lovely episode. So, all right, see you again next time. I was Vansh, joined by Arav, and recorded by Yash Dubal. And this was Poppedia podcast with Shabnam Hashmi. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And nice meeting all of you.
Yes.
Same here, ma'am.
Okay, bye.